You're listening to Crossing the Axis, the podcast that explores the commercial side of film production. With your host, James Keblas.
Welcome, listeners, and thank you for tuning into the show. You're going to see a theme in the next few episodes of Crossing the Axis, where I'm having these kind of client-side conversations. That is to say, I'll be talking to the decision makers at ad agencies and brands, the people who could potentially be hiring you. The goal in these conversations is to unpack the best ways for film production companies to add real, meaningful value to these clients, right? In some ways, this is both a conversation to benefit clients as much as it is the production companies, because ideally it produces better work that gets better results for everyone. But rather than speculate about why we think a client or what a client is looking for from your services, why don't we just ask them? That's why I'm excited to talk with Thig Gishuru today. Thig has over 10 years of experience in both the agency side and the client side of advertising, primarily creating, producing, and marketing content in fashion and tech and kind of lifestyle categories. Some of his stops along the way include brands like Nordstrom and T-Mobile and Solani, which is a travel-inspired unisex clothing brand that he created from concept to delivery. Very impressive. His agency stops include creative leadership roles at places like Publicis and Auxiliary. Thig is currently a creative director at Zulily, the family fashion and home goods marketplace giant. And I should say, in full disclosure, it should be submitted for the record that I have tried unsuccessfully in the past to get business from both Thig and Zulily. So let's start these questions off with the first one. WTF, Thig? Oh, and welcome to the show.
What up, James?
Oh man, I'm so glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be a guest on your podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time. And it should also be said that you and I have actually never met before, but we've been through so many similar playgrounds, primarily in the music scene in Seattle. Am I right? Is that how you think of it too?
Absolutely, absolutely. Music is my first creative love and really the genesis for my creative career. It all started with music.
Well, let's go there. So you've worked in agencies and brands, as I mentioned. You have this. You have a type, maybe in fashion, and that probably relates to music as well. So where does your journey begin? How are you here right now, and where does it all start?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It begins, like I said, with music. Going back to high school. In high school, I started a hip hop group with my best friend called The Physics. And we attempted to make music because we thought that we could compete with the best of the best out there. Truth be told, when we started out, we weren't that good at all, but we loved it. We loved the process of creating and making music and putting it out there in the world, and just knowing that that was a reflection of our creativity. So we graduated high school. Me and my buddy, we actually went to the same college. So we continued on the path of creating music, even while going to school and trying to balance that with classes and all the other responsibilities. And that sort of was a precursor to my professional career. Because when I graduated from college, I didn't really have the slightest idea of what I wanted to do for a living. But what I did know is that I loved being creative and I loved making music. And graduating college was a big milestone for us because we were finally out of school.
Mm-hmm.
After going to school forever, you're finally out. There's so many things that you want to do. And what was important to us was actually releasing music, making albums. And
Well,
so,
the thing with music too, my perspective on it is, especially these days with music, you create music because you love music and you have something you want to express, but music is tied into so many other things. And with tools available, you become a designer, you're making music videos. So then you're thinking about production, and then you have to write a script for a music video that matches and you become more than just a musician. You become a creative. I'm imagining your story, and that's what I see is you became a creative as a result of just being a musician.
100%. You have to wear a lot of hats as an artist, and there are a lot of transferable skills from being an independent artist to a professional working creative. So for me, getting a job out of college was really just a means to help give me the resources that I needed to work on music and be creative and do the things that I love. And so that's what I did. But my focus was music for a very long time, and we put out albums and we collaborated with other artists in Seattle. We were fortunate to do a lot of shows and festivals in the area, like Bumper Shoot, Sasquatch, Capitol Hill Block Party, playing at venues like the Crocodile, Numos, the
I
Showbox.
remember the physics around. Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
might have
yeah.
played at the Vera Project. Were you involved in the
Oh, for
in the?
sure. We did a few shows at
Yeah,
the Vera Project,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. Do you
Um,
know that I am one of the co-founders of the Vera Project?
I did not know that, but I'm
Yeah,
not surprised. That's amazing.
it's one of my greatest legacies in life.
Absolutely, as it should be.
Yeah, yeah.
The Bird Project is a staple. So music for the longest time was my focus and my main love, because it was my outlet to be creative. After doing it for so long, we actually became pretty good at it. So there was satisfaction in putting great art out into the world. But I hit a point around 10 years ago where I was looking at my life and my career and the trajectory of it, and where I was professionally, and where that was a day job that I wasn't necessarily very passionate about at all.
Hmm.
And initially, when I graduated college, like that was fine. I was fine spending 8 hours a day at a job that I was indifferent at, and then going home and making music and making my art. But at some point, you get a little bit older and you have to start thinking strategically about your career. And so that's what I did, and I had to like sit with some hard realities, really taking a hard look at like what I wanted to do with my career and how I wanted to make money, and if I wanted to use my creative talents beyond music. And I decided that I did. And I decided that it was important to me to try and carve out a creative career. And so I took a leap of faith, and I stepped away from my day job, which was in healthcare administration and research, and I pursued being a creative professional. And even then, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had some ideas. I was really into photography,
Yeah.
um, and I was really into fashion. And I set a goal for myself that I wanted to work at Nordstrom, and I wanted to be a creative there. The problem was I didn't have any experience or anything in my portfolio that a hiring manager at Nordstrom would look at and say, "Oh, this guy's perfect for this job," because I hadn't
We,
really done anything yet.
let me ask you: when you projected yourself working for Nordstrom, what role was it in your head?
Oh man, it was probably some sort of like creative director
Yeah, right.
slash photographer slash content creator.
Closer to the front lines of the fashion than the actual
Yeah,
brand, though,
absolutely,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, during this time, so this was like, I don't know if you remember Tumblr, like.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So this was like during Tumblr's heyday, and like Tumblr was like the scene for like menswear and fashion. And I would literally just like geek out on fashion for like hours a day. So quickly, fashion was sort of catching up to music as far as like my creative passions and interests. But like I said, I didn't have anything to stand on as far as a resume or work experience in that field. And so what I did was I decided to create my own fashion line from conception to delivery in order to showcase my abilities as a creative and as a marketer. And
There it
so
is. Yeah,
um,
there. Yeah.
yeah, so I collaborated with production company to put out a capsule collection. I created the brand Solani, which was inspired by travel in the three cities that I spent the most time in, which were Seattle, LA, and New York. I created a lookbook, a marketing campaign, a social media strategy. I had to wear all of these different hats.
Micro Nordstrom.
Yeah, it was crazy, but and it was sort of a sprint because I had this sense of urgency. But a year later, I had that to show for me, and I parlayed that into an interview at Nordstrom, and I got a role as a senior content producer, and I was in a role at Nordstrom where I got to do exactly what I wanted, which
Mm,
was create content, be creative, come up
mm,
with fun strategies, and try and help the brand in that way. So that was really my first start in sort of the creative world. And that was the first opportunity for me to really take my creative passions and talents and pursuits and translate them into a lucrative paying job, which for creatives is really hard to come by.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that was a great start. And from then I made a few moves to grow in my career.
I
Um,
saw the agency side. You were like, let's see what that other agency side looks like.
yeah, I dabbled in the agency world, which was really interesting because it was new to me. And I worked at Publicis, where the main client I worked on was Aflac. And
And
it,
what was your role? Creative director? See, you were,
yeah, so I was a creative lead, so I was helping
yeah.
with concepts for campaigns, and things of that nature. So I did the agency thing for a while, and it was a fun, but it was a contract role, so it had an end date. And so after the agency world, I went back to the brand side. My career is just like yo-yo from brand to agency world. But I went back to the brand side at T-Mobile, and at T-Mobile, I worked in their in-house studio as a creative lead. And so I was working on content for their campaigns. I was coming up with ideas for social, paid social. It was really a fun role because I got to touch a lot of different parts of the business, and I learned a lot. And I was in house and got to work with a big in house team. T-Mobile's at the time, their in house team was 50, which is not that big, right? But it's all relative. So I
And were
worked at
you in charge of putting out a particular product or a service for T-Mobile?
No, I kind of bounced around. I sort of hopped from project to project. So I could be working on concepts for Instagram, or a digital marketing campaign for the new iPhone drop, or something completely different. It was really interesting and fun in the fact that I got to gain a lot of experience, and I also got a lot of experience being at a lot of sort of high level exec meetings
Well,
and conversations.
yeah, this will, I want to hear more, but it come back to the idea that you're creating this content for brands and things like that, and how you see content creating value and how you can measure that value in some kind of not output but outcomes. If you ever get into that, that's what something I want to unpack in this conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I can think of T-Mobile, one project in particular. I think I was brought in to help with the launch of Stranger Things 3. It was a partnership with Netflix that we were working on, and I was tasked with coming up with a fun social media engagement tactic to help with brand awareness. Myself and another art director, we had like 3 days to work on this project, and we came up with this really fun idea of leveraging a contest in a microsite where we would give people these different codes. Because if you've ever watched Stranger Things, like part of
Yeah.
season one was they were trying to crack a code. And so we created this code on social and gave users the opportunity to try and crack the code and win fun prizes, and get a sneak peek into the new season of Stranger Things. And really, we didn't have a ton of expectations, but we ended up getting 1.5 million social engagements,
Oh,
which
there it is. Yeah.
at the time was like the highest ever for T-Mobile. So that's an example of, I guess, not having a firm idea of what the outcomes are, and then I think kind of
Right.
surpassing.
So, any takeaways of what it took for that video to rise above the other ones that you did? Why did it get so many engagements?
Yes, I would say the takeaway is know your audience. I think that
Yeah.
that was successful because we played to our audience, and people who were fans of that show, and that was sort of like the heart of it. There was like an element of exclusivity there,
Yeah.
because people felt special. They felt like they get it. This was really, it really resonated with them because of the connection to the show.
Yeah, it sounds like you were almost playing into the idea of like the fan fiction
Yeah,
engagement, right? Like you're like, hey, no, we're all in. Like, we're gonna be fans with you, and we're gonna have fun with this.
exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
So T-Mobile was great. Again, it was a contract role though, so there was an end date. It sort of felt like an agency in some ways where you're sort of, living in the agency world, you live and die by your clients and what's forecasted for this quarter and the next quarter, the next quarter after that. So at some point that role ended. And so as I was looking at what I wanted to do next with my career, I thought about the different opportunities. I thought about maybe staying on the brand side, maybe going back to the agency world. And I was presented with an opportunity to lead a new creative agency, Ox Creative, which is now called Auxiliary, but at the time was called Ox Creative. And I was presented with an opportunity to lead a scrappy new startup creative agency. The creative agency was owned by a larger digital marketing agency called Ad3.
Yeah. That's Brian
Yeah,
Rauschenbach, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No,
yep.
Brian.
That's
Yeah.
Brian.
Great work.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I came on as creative director at Ox, and you know, really like truly one of the most impactful roles and parts of my creative professional career, because like we had to grind. Like, you know how it is. We
Yeah.
were a new agency, nobody knew who we were, and we had to get business. And we had the benefit of having some connections and contacts because the larger agency that we worked under, Ad3, they've been around for a really long time, have a really great reputation and contacts at different companies. So we always had sort of some leverage in being able to at least get a foot in the door and get a conversation to be able to make a pitch, which was helpful. But this role was really my first like leadership role, and it allowed me to lead a team, a
Hmm.
small team, but a
What
team.
was the team? What, like 5 people, 4 people?
Yeah. So it was myself, and then my counterpart was the director of operations, and then we had 3 designers. So
Hmm.
total of 5 people.
And is this a full service agency or primarily a design?
For the most part, full service. We're full
Hmm.
service, and if there were things that we couldn't do, then we would partner with to
Yeah.
to make those happen. But we definitely advertised ourselves as a full service creative agency. So, but like I said, that I don't think I've ever pitched as much as when I was in that role.
Well, that's one of the things when I, was thinking about you for the show and I was looking at your career and I was thinking, I bet you think has had to hustle as a creative, voice in trying to land new business. And so much of what I want these conversations to pull away from is how do you get new business in a real meaningful way that fits and you're not convincing but you're actually doing really good work together. You've been through that. You know the grind, how hard it is with these sales cycles. You're in a hurry, but the client's not, like or whatever it might be, right? Like you think you have it all, but they're not responding, or great things come out of nowhere and all of a sudden you're on to something really fun and you're making things and signing SOWs. You've been through all of that, right?
I've been through all of that. We've I've pitched more, talked through more capabilities decks than I even know to various companies. So I get it. I get it. It's hard. Definitely lost more pitches than we won, but we're able to win enough to keep us afloat
Yeah.
and to keep us going. I will say, having so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Zulily role, because I think there's even a little bit more substance there for you to sink your teeth in on this topic. But to sort of bridge the gap, I was at Ox Creative for about 2 years, and I made the decision to leave because pitching was getting exhausting. I missed working for big brands, and although we pitched to big brands, it was harder to be in a position actually to win those pitches. And so I missed working for big brands. I wanted to get a little bit more of that back under my belt and under my portfolio. And so a creative director role at Zulily popped up during that time where I was considering making a move, and the stars aligned, and I ended up at Zulily, and I'm here today. So now I'm in that role where people are pitching to me, and I'm
Yeah, right. There you go.
I'm
It's so
hoping
much nicer, right?
it's so much nicer and less stressful. And I'm trying to make those decisions. But one thing that I would say is, if anyone is approaching me about potentially partnering with us or working for us as a vendor or whatever the situation is. The most important thing, I think, is having an understanding of the current climate that that company and that person, in my case, that creative director is in. Currently in the retail space, we're in a recession. People aren't spending money. Virtually every consumer brand out there is struggling and trying to find a way to make money because consumers are being a lot tighter with their purse strings and they're being a lot more thoughtful than they were 2 years ago. Pandemic, everybody was at home on their computer buying stuff like crazy. It was a gold mine. Everybody was making money. Now we've reached a point where people are not spending money. And so we've hit what I think technically, I don't know if it's a recession or not, but it sure feels that way.
It is. Yeah. I'm reading this in a lot of different places as well. Yeah. It's consistent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, I'm constantly thinking about that as a creative director. I'm thinking about this climate and this recession and what it means for my business and how I can add value to our customers or how I can find creative ways to communicate what that value is that Zulily brings to consumers in this climate. I do get a ton of people like in my inbox all the time, and it's pretty standard like cold email approach, like template. Like I could have just been anybody.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like for like 90%
Mhm.
of the inquiries that I get, and I get at least like 10 a week. And I think the most important, as I think about it from like my standpoint, like how could somebody approach me and actually like leave me with something that would be like, huh?
What I'm hearing so far, and I know you're going to give us more, and Thig, this is a fantastic conversation. I'm so glad you're opening up like this. This is exactly what I hoped for. It sounds like you want, see the world through your shoes. Look at, imagine what you might be facing in the context of you and even more you than Zulily, because you're the one with the pain product you're selling, of course, and you have a responsibility there, but it's you that's personally feeling pressure, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I have to, regardless, like I still have to, sell everything through to like my CMO and like my partners. But still, if it starts with me, like make me feel like you understand what I'm going through. And what I'm going through currently is like many other companies, unfortunately, like people have, had to let people go and people have lost their jobs. So resources are tight. In general, budgets are tight. I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out how to make compelling creative to really like distill the value of Zulily in this landscape. And it might have to be scrappy, it might have to be out of the box. It might have to be a little something different, but that's sort of like where I'm at. And so I think I would say for anyone who's approaching a company, an in-house company or an agency or someone, just showing that understanding of, I think it comes down to empathy, actually. I think that's a good word for it. Just showing
Mm-hmm.
the understanding of what's happening right now in that company's world and then speaking to that just very like open and honestly.
Let me see if I can unpack that a little bit. I think that's a fantastic advice, first of all, and my mind immediately goes to, if I were to do that like right now, I think of it something more strategically, right? From a business strategy, I see a white space over here, or I see Zuli looks like it's missing something, or hey, this just occurred to me. Have you considered from a strategy point of view, or it can be or it doesn't have to be one or the other, uh, creative ideas without the context of knowing enough information, right? There's always a danger. I mean, I almost call it malpractice sometimes to prescribe creative onto something that you have no business doing because you don't have enough information.
Right.
But we all are guilty of projecting on that. I mean, we all do that. And sometimes it is right. And maybe even a lot of times that's right. But it's a very dangerous game to kind of play. So I always kind of lean towards strategy and really thinking of the business kind of dollars and cents to try to uncover that, because that's where you will find where struggle really is, where you really can create value, and then that'll dictate the creative. I mean, but maybe creative is a way to go. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, sort of what you said was an interesting approach. Hey, I was thinking of this. Have you tried that? Like, that's, if done in a thoughtful way, like, that can have a lot of impact. I would love somebody to say that to me. I
Well,
would love I would love somebody to look at my brand and what my brand has done over the last year and say, hey, this brand has not like gone viral or done accomplished this. Like, hey, have you thought of doing this? Because as a creative director, what I want more than anything is I want to make an impact. But as a creative director, like I want to differentiate myself from all the other creative directors. So I want to do the big things, but I'm also beholden to a marketing budget and lots of stakeholders and lots of partners, and so most of the time, a lot of big ideas sort of get watered down. But what I want to do, I want to do those sort of big, like fun things. I just need help making it happen. I need help selling it through. I need help distilling the value. I need help painting the bigger picture of what it could be, seeing it that way. But all creative directors, at least the good ones, like they all want to like do cool shit.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. No, that's spot on, man. I think this is amazing kind of insight. Have you been approached by anyone where that has happened? Where someone is, I don't know, whatever, they reach out to you on LinkedIn or they send you an email or you get a text message from someone. Actually, I'm going to back it up. From someone you don't have a relationship with
Hmm.
reaches out to you and says something profound enough for you to go, all right, I'll bite. That's interesting. You got my attention. Does that happen to you?
It does happen. Not often though. Not often. It's rare, but it does happen. It's also sort of, there's an element of luck to it. So the last time it happened, I believe, was so something that I've been like really interested in lately, like most people, for better or for worse, is like AI and generative AI. And as a creative director, I'm trying to figure out like where that fits into my process and where that fits into my team and where the opportunity is there. So that's something that's been like top of mind for me lately. And recently, the last time what you're talking about happened was when someone had reached out to me to sort of like pitch like services related to like generative AI and design. So I think a lot of it was that the timing just happened to be really good.
Or
Um,
they were really good.
or they
Yeah,
were,
you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, yeah.
they got it in your head. They knew.
Right. They probably saw that I had like liked some post on LinkedIn that was related to that and like strategically like sought me out and
Yeah,
like
I'm
found.
only half joking there. You know, I mean, if they could have been exactly what you're talking about, right? They took the time to figure you out to some level, some insight, and
Right.
then said, "Oh, if he's into that, then check this out."
No, no, exactly. And that speaks to me as like, I spoke about like being a creative director and wanting to put out like great work, but I'm also a creative leader. So in that moment, it spoke to me as like also a creative leader and like doing the right thing for my team. And so that person that reached out, we set up time and like had a call. I try to avoid meetings as much as I can, but if it's compelling enough, then I'll make it happen. But yeah, I think that was a combination of probably someone being very strategic and smart and good timing, and again speaking to my needs as a creative leader and a creative director, and even like taking another step back, it's saying, hey, like I've been paying attention to like what's been going on in the space, like you know you like other companies are probably losing money, consumers are being a lot more frugal. Here's something we created for so and so to communicate the value of this, and there's some similarities with your product, your brand and their brand, and here's what we were able to do for them. Something like that just helps me really easily like make that connection. Then
Mhm.
like my ears are sort of perked a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, that's man. For the listeners that are listening to this episode, we just went through a little chunk there that's gold, and I really appreciate you talking about that.
Yeah.
I want to switch over to another topic a little bit here and talk about. So like just take a company like Zulily for instance. Do you have an AOR ad agency? What I want to try to unpack here is, when do you work with ad agencies in the classic sense versus direct to a film production company?
Hmm.
Do you expect them to do the creative development, or do you have your own in-house team that does that kind of stuff, or you have an agency that does that? Where are you making decisions? Is it for the brand of Zulily and the kind of awareness marketing, you use an agency, but when it comes to a specific product launch or a line or something like that, you would use, and it's going to be a video forward campaign, if it not exclusively, then you just go straight to the production company. Where do you make those decisions? How do you go about that business?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I'll sort of tell you how it works right now. And right now is I've actually only been here about a year, and so this is how it's worked since I've got here. But this is not necessarily. I don't think this is the future state of how it will work. We don't have necessarily an AOR. I don't think they have the title of AOR, but they are the agency that we sort of is our main partner, I think, right now. And they're an agency. I would consider them a full service agency based in North Carolina. And they're great. They're really great to work with. So, for example, we recently put out a commercial, a TV spot for a new campaign, an evergreen campaign. And we partnered with this agency. The agency came up with the concepts and the ideas, and they also came up with the script for this commercial. We aligned on it, signed off on it, and then the agency brought in a production company, a film production. So basically, you
Mm-hmm.
brought in your company to basically take a look at everything, work on production, finalize everything, and then actually like do the actual shooting of everything. And we actually shot in Stockholm, Sweden, which was pretty cool. So in this particular case, we worked with an agency. The agency sort of like subcontracted, delegated certain pieces of the project to that film production company, and then we sort of all worked together.
Kind of a classic relationship.
Yeah, kind of a classic relationship. I'm creative director, so like I would love to do like mostly everything in house if we could,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't. I think my preference would be to have, at that point you're dealing with like three different creative entities, right? There's Zulily, then there's this agency that we work with, then there's like the production company, and I would probably prefer to remove one of those just for ease, and also, it's going to be less expensive. I don't know what the future state of our relationship with agencies will be. I, I
Mm-hmm.
I would love to explore different agencies and different specialties.
Well, and there are so many production companies now that aren't just cameras anymore, right? They and gear and and technicians in the with a crew. They have creative directors. They do strategy even. I mean, actually, there's a outfit out of Chicago. They also are doing media buying. So they're making the stuff and making sure that it gets out there. That's one of the I thought was a
Oh, wow.
really interesting approach to adding value to clients. I mean, their whole point was, listen, we think our work is really good. You're not maximizing it because you're not doing very good media buying with the work that we're making. And we're making this, we know how to put it out there because and then they do the whole thing and it's really paid off for them. So production companies are expanding all these interesting ways. Would you hire a production company, where you look at it and at face value, you're like, that's a production company. But when you open it up a little bit more, you see, oh man, they're really doing a lot of the creative work and really putting the muscle in for the strategy and the business case and goals. Would you hire that, or is
Uh,
that too risky?
no, no, absolutely. I would love that. I would love that because, if you look at many creative departments and like marketing orgs right now, they're a little thinner because layoffs have happened and there's a lot going on. And so my time it's even more scarce. And when I can have sort of an outside perspective that is also a reliable in terms of their expertise, and whether that's like marketing or creative direction or media buying or whatever it is, like having another person to consult with and collaborate with, it makes my job easier. And I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not definitely don't have a huge ego to where like I have to make all the decisions or it has to be my opinion. I value other opinions. And so something like that would actually be super appealing to me.
One of the things I can hear you saying, but not fully saying it, is that money matters a lot too. So is that true? Is money driving things more than other factors now?
Absolutely. I will say money matters for two reasons. Number one is it matters because there's a finite amount of it in budgets. And, budgets get tighter during times like these, and spending money on one thing takes away money from another thing. And so you need to be able to justify how that cost is going to lead to value. The other reason that it matters is because of optics, right? Because a lot of companies are unfortunately having to let people go. And so spending a gajillion dollars on like a TV commercial could optically not like look good for the
Yeah.
companies. So for that reason, we have to be thoughtful about where we're choosing to spend money. So yeah, money, I mean, it's a huge driver, no
hmm
doubt.
Well, man, this has been a fantastic conversation. I feel like we could go on, and I know that you're pressed for time, so I don't want to push you too hard. You've been honest and candid, and I'm sure there's going to be a million questions that will come up after this, or maybe we'll do something online, or maybe we'll do another episode down the road or something like that.
Hey, absolutely, man. Now that we've connected, like let's make it a regular thing.
Okay. Well, everybody, you've been listening to Thig Gishuru talking about his experience and what you can do to get his kind of business. I think there's been a lot of great insights. Thig, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Crossing the Axis with James Keblas. If you're interested in joining the conversation or have a topic you'd like covered, please drop a note at keblas.com. That's KEBLAS.com.